Hey, what's going on, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I kind of want to react to some highlights from a game that's not Laker related for a change. The Golden State Warriors and the Brooklyn Nets played last night, and the Brooklyn Nets got stomped all the way out. MVP chants were singing out from the rafters. You would swear that was Chase Arena as opposed to the Barclays Center. It was unbelievably one-sided out there in terms of the fan base. You only see that kind of stuff with the Lakers. The Lakers go to places like Atlanta and various places like Indiana, and it'll be like that. I remember in Boston last year it was like that. But this was special, man. That was a full-fledged Warrior arena, and KD played his heart out. He did his best he could. You know what I mean? He's efficient, MVP caliber self, but the Nets have such horrible front court issues right now. You got a natural-born power forward who's well past his prime, playing at the center position, and you think that's supposed to stop these high-powered teams that are coming at you? The Brooklyn Nets have a lot of problems, and it ain't just the fact that Kyrie Irving isn't there. The fact of the matter is the players that they've put in place to help with what they do are so inept because they're just not positioned properly. You got Blake Griffin playing the center. You got LaMarcus Aldridge trying to swap in there and play some center. It's just not enough firepower to withstand the absence of Kyrie Irving and the struggles of James Harden. See, if you have Kyrie Irving down there, you can go without having a center because they're going to just chop people up. The three of them are just going to, overpower any and all matchups. The problem is when you remove one of them, now you're left with a team that doesn't even have all the pieces to be a cohesive basketball bunch. Now, the question I have for their franchise is, why didn't you put together a cohesive basketball bunch? Even though you have three max players, and I understand you have limited cap space to put together what you need to put together, you got to have proper prototypes, man. You can't just slap players together and say, okay, we got these guys on the cheap and that's that. The Lakers, at the very least, put together players that fit their little awkward, team. Now, granted, we're having struggles early because of some of the struggles that we have with our offense, but in theory, these jump shooters and all of that, these stilt centers like DeAndre Jordan and Dwight Howard, they're supposed to at least be able to play cohesive basketball if the stars aren't out there. We can run lineups that will play basketball. The Brooklyn Nets don't even have a legitimate center on their roster. They don't have a legitimate facilitator outside of James Harden on their roster. They just got a bunch of shooters, got a bunch of old guys, just put together a bunch of guys who are supposed to go kind of come along for the ride, so to speak. That's what they've put together in Brooklyn. And that's why it's so important that they have Kyrie out there at the end of the day. They can't trade him. He has no value at this point. The Brooklyn mayor that's supposed to be coming in, the New York mayor is supposed to be coming in, what have you. He's saying that he's not going to change the law or take a look at the law at this point. Even though I had some conflicting reports come out that said otherwise earlier on. The last thing that was said was this. So it doesn't look like Kyrie's going to be playing anytime soon. And the Brooklyn Nets are just stuck with a bad team. And I'm looking at the situation. I see Stephen A. yelling at the screen, talking about how KD is not getting appreciated by the fans. And I don't think most fans really understand what's going on. Just casual fans don't really understand what's going on because, the media is not going to tell them. The media is not going to explain to you thoroughly. Well, not on segments that you're going to be watching anyway, but they're not going to explain to you what the situation is, that the cap space is what's keeping them from being able to maneuver, that bad decisions in regards to their roster is why they don't run good basketball play. It's not because people don't appreciate the Nets. It's not because KD's not doing enough or James Harden's not doing enough necessarily. They need their DeAndre Jordans. They need their Dwight Howards. They need players that fit of the basketball mold of what a team should be, And right now, they don't have that. I like the Claxton kid, but he's not coming along to be that center that they want him to be. And if he is, they're certainly not playing him as that. And I think he has a lot of talent. Looking and doing some scouting on that kid, he doesn't really have a whole lot of weaknesses, and he could put the ball on the floor. So they need to give him opportunities to be a lot more than just a defensive player. That's part of the problem. You got this supreme microwave player in Cam Thomas. Is he playing? Do you have him out there? I like Steve Nash, but he's a rookie coach, and that's also part of the problem. When you're looking at the situation with the Lakers, I've been screaming we need to fire Vogel. It's just the same situation going on out there for different reasons. You just don't have the right coach in place for what it is that you're dealing with. You got the right coach in place to kind of go along for the ride. You know what I mean? Because anybody can go along for the ride. And see, that's another thing that makes me feel kind of uncomfortable to talk about, because I don't really know if this applies or not. But it's like sometimes these organizations, they want to prop up a superstar coach. And it's not that the coach is necessarily equipped to be a superstar. It's just that they want him to be the face of whatever it is that, you know what I mean, that they're doing. So they got this super team and they hire this really nice face to kind of go along for the ride, when the reality is these players are so good that they don't really need a whole lot from their coach. But if they're missing one player or one of the stars, then you definitely need someone down there to be able to stabilize things and ultimately coach these players who may not be that great into being, what it is to keep things stable. So a rookie coach is going to have a difficult time doing that, especially since Steve Nash didn't have any prior experience being a coach of any kind, to my knowledge. Just a great player, which stands for a whole lot, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be able to handle this type of adjustment in these type of circumstances. I just don't know that he can. And this is a situation where it's like they're not going to get better at all. You can't do anything to get better. The only thing they can try to do now, and this is sounding, what I mean is the only thing they can do now in terms of creating cap space is trading a superstar, because just like the Lakers, the only thing they can really do is trade a superstar, and then from there make good decisions about your roster so that you have a team that can actually run with everybody, and run up and match up against anyone. Because the NBA is a game of matchups, as we know basketball is. And right now, the Nets just don't match up well with anyone. And they were designed not to, because they were supposed to be just a three-man, machine. That's all. They were supposed to be able to overcome that, and that's where they messed up. So if I'm the Nets, I'm going out and I'm getting the natural prototype players that I need. You trade some of those guys on that bench and get yourself a real center right now, literally. I look at a guy like Andre Drummond in Philadelphia. Joel Embiid's going to be coming back. He's not going to be able to put up the numbers that he's putting up right now, and he's playing at an all-star level or close to it, as usual, in terms of his stats. I didn't love his game, but I guarantee you he's definitely an upgrade from Blake Griffin at the center position. And that's what they need, someone to play that position as an actual center. I like LaMarcus Aldridge, but what are we doing? How far do you think these guys are going to take you at this stage? And even him, he's a 4. He's a jump shooting 4. I don't want him playing the center like that, unless I got the 4 next to him that can do the dirty work that he's otherwise not going to be able to knock out for me. So this is just, think you can get away with stuff as a GM. It's I got these 3 players. All I got to do is just get some players, and that's that. And then they start going down with injuries and stuff like this, and you got nothing. If you look at Philadelphia and you say, well, they're able to withstand what's going on without Ben Simmons, and it's because they've done a much better job putting together a cohesive team, honestly. They're built to be able to withstand the absence of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. That's what we're learning. Granted, they needed some things that ultimately they didn't have early in the season, but those things have started to come about, and with good coaching and focused play. So Phoenix is able to withstand it. Plus, they don't have 3 max contracts. They have 2.5, I'd say, when you're considering Tobias Harris to go along with Ben and Joel. So it's a little easier to maneuver that way as well. Brooklyn's in a tough spot. The Lakers are in a tough spot, and the Warriors are in that same spot. But the thing about the Warriors is, of course, we've been paying attention to them. They have been building this team for the last 2 years as a bad team. So they were able to get assets and things of that nature, build these players, give them minutes while Steph and Clay were out. Now that those guys, have developed and knew who they're going to be, Wiggins is comfortable, all this different stuff, a couple extra draft picks and Kuminga and Moody and Wiseman, and now they have a great team at the same time that their stars are coming back. So it's they're in a different position. The Nets didn't have 2 years to build their farm system players. The Lakers didn't have 2 years to build those farm system players. The farm system players the Lakers had, of course, they had to trade to get the players they have right now. So, it's just a different situation. The Warriors are working from a planning perspective with their roster going back several years. So you're seeing the result of different circumstances. And to think that the Nets are going to just go up against a Warrior team missing a whole $100 million contract player in Kyrie Irving, and beat a team that's fully equipped like the Warriors. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. Reality is setting in that, when you have asset, so to speak, in building your teams and just thinking you're gonna be able to get away with certain stuff because players are so talented, you're gonna find out in this era that's not gonna work. You're gonna get beat by teams because it's not just one or two good teams out there. Every single night you're dealing with a team that has an extraordinary talent on it, or good coaching or something like that, a lot of big size. You're not going to be able to get away with nothing. You got to have size, you got to have your prototype players, you got to have your shooters, you got to have a stable basketball team, or you're going to get knocked off. So that's what I'm seeing. The Golden State Warriors had a fantastic defensive night. They're having a fantastic defensive season. If you've watched my channel, you know that's not surprising because I did a Warrior Talk video, as I did with every team. And as I did my homework, I realized, this is one of the best teams in basketball, and it was before it was popular to say, but I started realizing that they had so much depth because of what we've already talked about. To now, it's like they don't even really need Klay to come back. They could probably get as far as the Western Conference Finals right now with this team. When they get Klay back, it's going to be very difficult to beat them in a 7-game series for anybody. So they've been my favorite for a little bit now. I think right now you have to wonder who's going to stop them if they remain healthy. Now, what you're banking on if you're opposing the Warriors is the fact that when was the last time you've seen Steph Curry make it all the way through a season? He doesn't. So you have to wonder if injuries are going to start catching up. But like the team that they had in 173 games, this team is deep again. That KD team wasn't as deep because they had his contract on play, as we're talking about. But they don't have nothing like that right now. They're dealing with 2 max contracts, 3. They're dealing with 3, but as we said, either way, you get the point. Now they're in a position where they're deep again, and because of it, they probably can withstand those injuries more so than they were able to last year and the year before, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, it's going to be tough to beat them. It's going to be very tough to beat them. Klay will be back, I guess, on Christmas Day. He seems to be doing really good in his return, in his progression to return. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do, what the Warriors are going to do. Kuminga's back now. He's healthy. And the thing about Kuminga is he's very, very, very athletic and balanced within his athleticism. So you're going to be in situations where you're going to sit Draymond down, you're going to sit Steph down, sit Klay down, and this guy's going to be getting easy buckets. That's another reason why they're going to be absolutely and utterly deadly. Wiseman's going to be back in a couple weeks. I'd imagine he's coming up soon. Him and Kuminga create a dynamic of size and reach and athleticism that's going to be very, very, very difficult to match up with. And nobody really is seeing that dynamic coming necessarily because they don't know of those players like that. But I'm telling you, quick, easy bucket getters, defensive guys who can stop things from happening. I looked at the box score tonight and realized Juan Toscano Anderson, one of their very best defensive players, got 5 minutes or something like that. That's how deep this team is. You got Otto Porter, and you mentioned him. You got Damian Lee, who's starting to show signs of real ability. Jordan Poole, as we know, who is just looking to break out at this point. If somebody goes down, he immediately steps up. Wiggins, who's finally developed into what we believe he could be, one of the most reliable scorers, and turned into a nice defensive player as well. And it's good to see. It was real good to see he's developing. So it just goes on and on. And then you got Steph Curry, who's clearly the leading candidate for MVP right now, him and Jokic for me. So, I don't know. The Lakers, personally, don't even look like they're going to be a threat to the Warriors, let alone win the championship. I don't think we can win 5 games. I think we would lose in 5 games if the series were to start now. We'd win a game, maybe. My team ain't good enough. And I look at the Nets. If Kyrie's not coming back, they're not good enough. And as I told you guys a couple days ago, the Nets got some of the same problems the Lakers have. People were saying, "Oh, the Nets are doing so well. They got off to a good start." I'm like, yeah, but their roster is trash. The roster is ass, and it just comes down to, can they get their 3 stars back, so that those 3 stars can overcome those issues. And with them out there, I'm sure they do. But with 2 of them or 1.5, if Harden's not going to be himself, they do not have what they need. So I think the Lakers and the Nets both need to make some serious changes. I don't think either one of these teams should be patient. I've been wrong about this type of stuff before, but I believe in stopping the bleeding. especially as it pertains to the Lakers situation. They need to stop the bleeding. And the Nets are not too far behind, you know. KD's healthy right now. As he continues to carry the load, continue to take on these double teams, stuff like that, believe you me, he won't stay that way. And if he goes down, it's a lottery season. It's a lottery season for the Nets. So I don't know what to tell you guys, man. I don't think it's time to panic, but I do think changes should be made sooner than later. You don't let things get worse. My name is BDF44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.